Hello, my dear English learners. Welcome back to our channel. Many learners say English is too fast. They hear words, but they do not understand. You're not alone in this journey. Today's video is Slow English Listening. Joan of Arc, the girl who led an army. This story is not only about English, it is also about courage. You will hear how a teenage girl with faith and determination led soldiers and changed the history of France. Every slow English story is carefully written for beginners. Short sentences, clear words, step by step. By the end, you will understand more English and feel more inspired. So subscribe, activate the bell, and come back every day. Now let's begin the inspiring story of Joan of Arc. Joan of Arc was born in 1412. She lived in a small village called Domremy. This village was in France. Joan was not rich. She was not from a noble family. Her father was a farmer. Her mother took care of the house. Joan helped her family every day. Joan was a simple girl, but she was different. She loved God very much. She prayed every day. She went to church often. At that time, France was in trouble. England was fighting against France. This war was very long. It was called the 100 Years' War. French people were sad. They were afraid. Many French soldiers died. English soldiers took French lands. Joan was 13 years old when something amazing happened. She was in her father's garden. Suddenly, she heard a voice. "Joan," the voice said, "God has a mission for you." Joan looked around. She saw a bright light. In the light, she saw Saint Michael. Saint Michael was an angel. "You must help France," Saint Michael said. "You must help the king." Joan was scared, but she listened. Saint Michael told her about her mission. "Go to the king. Tell him God wants you to fight. You will save France." Joan could not believe it. She was just a farm girl. How could she fight? How could she save a country? But the voices came again. Saint Catherine and Saint Margaret also spoke to Joan. They told her the same thing. God chose you, Joan. You must be brave. For 4 years, Joan heard these voices. They always said the same thing. Save France. Help the king. Joan's family did not understand. Her friends did not believe her. Joan is crazy, some people said. A girl cannot be a soldier. But Joan believed in God. She believed in her mission. She knew she had to try. Joan was 17 years old. The voices were stronger now. They told her, "Go to the king. Go now." At that time, the French king was Charles VII, but he was not a strong king. English armies controlled much of France. The city of Orléans was in danger. English soldiers surrounded the city. If Orléans fell, France would lose the war. Joan knew she had to act. She went to her uncle. "Uncle," she said, "I must go to the king. God wants me to save France." Her uncle looked at her. "Joan, you are young. You are a woman. The king will not listen." "But I must try," Joan said. "This is my mission." Her uncle saw something special in Joan's eyes. He saw her faith. He saw her determination. "Okay," he said, "I will help you." Joan cut her hair short. She dressed like a man. She traveled to the city of Chinon. This was where the king lived. The journey was dangerous. English soldiers were everywhere. But Joan was not afraid. When Joan arrived at the king's castle, she asked to see King Charles. "A farm girl wants to see the king?" The guards laughed. "This is impossible." But Joan did not give up. She waited. She prayed. She insisted. Finally, the king agreed to see her. But first, he wanted to test Joan. King Charles hid among his nobles. Another man sat on the throne.
pretending to be the king. Joan entered the great hall. There were hundreds of people. All the men looked the same to her. But Joan walked straight to the real king. "My lord," she said to Charles, "God sent me to you. I will drive the English out of France. I will see you crowned in Reims Cathedral." Everyone was amazed. How did this simple girl recognize the king? King Charles was surprised too. He spoke privately with Joan. Joan told him about her voices. She told him about her mission. She spoke with such faith and confidence. "Give me soldiers," Joan said. "Give me armor. I will lift the siege of Orleans." The king's advisors were doubtful. "She is just a girl," they said. "She knows nothing about war." But Joan's faith was powerful. She convinced them. "I do not need to know about war," Joan said. "God will show me the way." King Charles made a decision. He gave Joan a small army. He gave her white armor. He gave her a banner with the words, "Jesus Mary." Joan was ready for her mission.
Joan arrived at Orleans in April 1429. The city was desperate. English armies had surrounded it for months. French soldiers were tired. They had lost hope. When they saw Joan, they were confused. "Who is this girl?" they asked. "How can she help us?" But Joan was different from other leaders. She did not drink alcohol. She did not swear. She prayed before every battle. "Soldiers," Joan said, "God is with us. We will win." Joan's confidence was contagious. Slowly, the soldiers began to believe. Joan led her first attack on May 4th. She carried her white banner. She wore her white armor. "Follow me," she shouted, "for France." For God. The French soldiers fought like never before. They saw Joan's courage. They felt inspired. Joan was not afraid of danger. She climbed ladders. She attacked enemy fortresses. An English arrow hit her shoulder, but she continued fighting. "Do not fear," Joan shouted to her soldiers. "God is with us." In just 4 days, the siege was broken. The English army retreated. Orleans was free. The victory was incredible. People called it a miracle. News spread across France. "The Maid of Orleans has saved the city." After Orleans, Joan won more battles. She defeated English armies at Jargeau, Patay, and other places. French soldiers now followed Joan with complete faith. They saw how she prayed before battles. They saw her kindness to prisoners. They saw her pure heart. "Joan is sent by God," they said. Joan's greatest dream was to crown Charles as the true king of France. She wanted to go to Reims Cathedral. "My king," Joan said, "we must go to Reims. God wants you to be crowned there." The journey to Reims was dangerous. English armies controlled the roads, but Joan's army was unstoppable. Town after town opened their gates for Joan. People came out to see the Holy Maid. On July 17th, 1429, Charles VII was crowned King of France in Reims Cathedral. Joan stood beside him, holding her banner. Her mission was complete. But Joan's story was not over. Joan continued to fight for France. But in May 1430, something terrible happened. Joan was captured by Burgundian soldiers. The Burgundians were French, but they helped the English. The English were very happy. They had the famous Joan of Arc as their prisoner. "Now we will show everyone that Joan is not holy," they said. "We will prove she is a witch." The English sold Joan to their allies. They took her to the city of Rouen. In Rouen, Joan faced a trial. But this was not a fair trial. The judges were English supporters. They accused Joan of terrible things. "You are a witch," they said. Your voices come from the devil. You dress like a man. This is against God, they said. You do not obey the church, they said. Joan defended herself bravely. My voices come from God, she said. Saint Michael, Saint Catherine, and Saint Margaret speak to me. I dress like a man because I am a soldier. God told me to fight. I love the church, but I must obey God first. For months, the judges questioned Joan. They tried to make her say her voices were false. Joan was tired. She was only 19 years old. She had been in prison for a year. Sometimes Joan was scared. Sometimes she said what the judges wanted to hear. But then she remembered her mission. She remembered her voices. No, Joan said firmly. I cannot deny my voices. They came from God. The judges were angry. They condemned Joan to death. On May 30th, 1431, Joan of Arc was burned at the stake. She was 19 years old. Before she died, Joan asked for a cross. She prayed aloud. Jesus, she said, Jesus. Many people who watched were crying. Even some English soldiers cried. We have killed a saint, one soldier said. Joan was dead, but her memory lived on. 25 years later, the church examined Joan's trial. They found that it was unfair. Joan was innocent, they declared. She was a holy woman. In 1920, the Catholic Church made Joan a saint. Today, she is Saint Joan of Arc. Joan's courage changed France forever. After her death, the French army continued to win. They drove the English out of France. Joan of Arc became a symbol of courage, faith, and love for country. Today, people all over the world remember Joan. They remember the farm girl who heard God's voice. They remember the teenager who led armies. They remember the young woman who died for her beliefs. Joan's message is simple but powerful. Have faith. Be brave. Follow your mission. This is the inspiring story of Joan of Arc, a simple girl who changed history. Joan teaches us that age does not matter. Gender does not matter. What matters is faith, courage, and determination. The more you listen to these stories, the more you understand English. And the more you hear real inspiring stories, the stronger you feel. Remember Joan's words. Have faith. Be brave. Follow your mission. Come back every day for another slow English story. Subscribe, activate the bell, like this video, and share with friends. Thank you for listening. See you tomorrow with another inspiring story.